Welcome to our channel, my fellow horror enthusiasts. Today, we delve into the abyss of the internet's underbelly Craigslist. We've unearthed 3 true horror stories from Craigslist that will leave you questioning every online encounter. These aren't your average internet tales, these are bone-chilling accounts that will make you think twice before browsing Craigslist again. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more spine-tingling tales. Let the horror begin. Our first tale takes us to the bustling city, where finding an affordable apartment feels like winning the lottery. Desperate times call for desperate measures, and that's how Sarah found herself scrolling through Craigslist roommate ads late one night. She stumbled upon a listing that seemed too good to be true. A spacious room in a prime location, available at a fraction of the market price. Intrigued, Sarah decided to overlook the odd vibe she got from Edward's cryptic emails. They agreed to meet, and Sarah, armed with a pepper spray keychain, stepped into Edward's dimly lit apartment. He was polite, if a little eccentric, and Sarah signed the lease. At first, everything seemed fine. Edward kept to himself mostly, emerging from his room only at odd hours. But as the days turned into weeks, Sarah started noticing unsettling things. Objects would go missing, only to reappear in strange places. Whispers seemed to emanate from Edward's room at night, sending chills down Sarah's spine. One evening, while Edward was out, Sarah decided to investigate. She crept towards Edward's room, her heart pounding. With a deep breath, she pushed open the door and saw a single, ancient-looking trunk in the corner. Drawn by an unknown force, Sarah approached the trunk and opened it. Inside were antique medical instruments, their surfaces stained with something that looked disturbingly like blood. Suddenly, the sound of the front door creaking open echoed through the apartment. Edward was back. Sarah fled the apartment, the image of the blood-stained instruments seared into her mind. She never went back, leaving behind her belongings and a month's worth of rent. Our next story takes us to a quaint antique shop, where the past whispers through dusty relics. John, a lover of all things vintage, found himself drawn to a beautiful antique gramophone listed on Craigslist for an unbelievably low price. The seller, an elderly woman, claimed it was her grandfather's and that it was time to find it a new home. John eagerly brought it home. That night, as John placed the gramophone on his living room table, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had invited something else into his home. He dismissed it as his imagination. Eager to hear its melodies, John wound the crank, the needle scratching against the old vinyl record. A hauntingly beautiful melody filled the air, but as the music played on, the atmosphere in the room shifted. John felt a cold spot settle over him, despite the warmth of the summer night. The temperature dropped, and a bone-chilling draft seemed to seep from the gramophone itself. The music, once enchanting, now seemed to warp and distort. John decided to turn it off, but as he reached for the lever, the gramophone let out a deafening screech. He stumbled back, his heart pounding. The room grew colder, the air thick with an unseen presence. John was no longer alone in his apartment. The gramophone began to play on its own, the mournful melody taking on a frantic tone. John, shaken to his core, returned it to the antique shop the next day. The elderly woman took it back with a knowing nod. Chapter 3. The Dangerous Job Offer. Our final tale takes us down the winding roads of rural America. Mark, a struggling writer, found himself drawn to a Craigslist job posting. It was an offer for a live-in caretaker position at a secluded ranch. The pay was generous, and Mark decided to take a chance. He packed his bags and set off on a journey that promised peace and solitude. The ranch, nestled deep in a valley, was as beautiful as it was isolated. The main house, a sprawling Victorian mansion, stood like a watchful sentinel. Mark was greeted by the owner, Caleb, who showed him around the property. As Caleb detailed Mark's duties, a sense of unease began to creep into Mark's mind. The instructions were oddly specific, the warnings about certain areas of the property bordering on paranoia. Despite the unsettling feeling, Mark decided to push forward. He settled into his new routine, his days spent tending to the property and his nights consumed by his writing. But as the days turned into nights, the silence that Mark had initially found so peaceful began to feel oppressive. Strange noises echoed through the old house at night, floorboards creaking, whispers carried on the wind. One night, while working late, Mark stumbled upon a hidden compartment in his desk. Inside, he found a dusty old journal, its pages filled with frantic scribblings and disturbing drawings. The final entry, scrawled in a shaky hand, ended abruptly. The words, "he knows," sending a chill down Mark's spine. Suddenly, Mark heard a noise outside his door. Standing in the doorway was Caleb, a rusty axe gripped tightly in his hand. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the dark side of Craigslist. We've explored the chilling tales of Sarah, John, and Mark, reminders that even in the digital age, some things are better left untouched. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more horror content. Stay safe and be cautious when using online marketplaces. Always trust your instincts, and if something feels off, it probably is. Until next time, sleep tight, and don't let the Craigslist horrors bite.